Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Hira Mustafa and these are the headlines. Pakistan's Foreign Office says the leaked WhatsApp chat of TV anchor Arnab Goswami has exposed India's malicious designs. The transcripts indicate Goswami had prior information about the 2019 Pulwama attack and the Balakot airstrike. In a statement, the Foreign Office said the revelations vindicate Pakistan's stance on Indian terrorism. Two female Supreme Court judges have been shot dead by gunmen in Afghanistan's capital city of Kabul. A spokesperson for the top court said the judges were traveling to their office in an official vehicle when they were attacked. The spokesperson added the driver of the vehicle and another person were wounded in the attack. No group has claimed responsibility so far. In Uganda, opposition candidate Bobby Wine says he will legally contest the victory of Yoweri Museveni in the last week presidential election. In a tweet, he urged his supporters to refrain from violence. 54 people were shot dead by security forces loyal to Museveni during anti-government protests in November. Iran has urged the International Atomic Energy Agency to avoid sharing details on Tehran's nuclear program. In a statement, Iran's nuclear department said the UN watchdog must avoid sowing seeds of confusion within the international community. This comes a day after 3 European powers called on Iran to halt its plan to produce uranium metal. India's COVID-19 vaccination drive has hit a bump on the first day due to glitches in its app called CoWIN. The country's COVID-19 caseload climbed to 1.5 million with over 15,000 infections and 181 deaths overnight. In Pakistan, over 2,500 people tested positive and 43 more lost their lives overnight, raising the toll close to 11,000. Globally, the virus has claimed over 2,021,000 lives while infecting over 94.5 million. And in football, Leicester City have defeated Southampton 2-0 in their Premier League encounter at King Power Stadium. James Maddison and Harvey Barnes netted one each to seal the win for Foxes. The win moves Leicester City to second place on the league table with 35 points. Well, these were the headlines. News in detail coming after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now the news in detail. Pakistan's Foreign Office says the leaked WhatsApp chat of TV anchor Arnab Goswami has exposed India's malicious designs. The transcripts indicate Goswami had prior information about the 2019 Pulwama attack and the Balakot airstrike against Pakistan. In a statement, the Foreign Office said the revelations vindicate Pakistan's stance on Indian terrorism. It said India stages such false flag operations and so-called surgical strikes to manipulate national sentiment. It said the BJP was the biggest beneficiary of the Pulwama attack in which 40 Indian soldiers were killed. The Foreign Office said the international community has been given irrefutable evidence of India's state sponsorship of terrorism. It urged the world to hold India accountable for its actions threatening regional peace. A large number of protesting farmers have planned to move to Delhi borders as early as January 20th to avoid long jams on the roads. They will participate in the tractor parade planned for Republic Day on January 26th in the capital. Farm leaders estimate the participation of almost 100,000 tractors from over 7,000 villages from Haryana alone. Meanwhile, opposition party Congress attacked Prime Minister Narendra Modi, saying he has become a slave of the big capitalist. Over the past 54 days of protest, over 80 farmers have lost their lives, out of which 4 have committed suicide in protest against the farm laws. The 9th round of discussions between the government and farm unions ended in a deadlock, with the next round set for January 19th. Now moving on to Afghanistan, 2 female Supreme Court judges have been shot dead by gunmen in the capital city of Kabul. A spokesperson for the top court said the judges were traveling to their office in an official vehicle when they were attacked. The spokesperson added the driver of the vehicle and another person were wounded in the attack. No group has claimed responsibility so far. Police said they are investigating the incident. Violence has surged across Afghanistan in recent months, especially in Kabul, amid ongoing peace talks in Doha. Iran has urged the International Atomic Energy Agency to avoid sharing details on Tehran's nuclear program. In a statement, Iran's nuclear department said the UN watchdog must avoid sowing seeds of confusion within the international community. This comes a day after 3 European powers called on Iran to halt its plan to produce uranium metal. They also called on Tehran to return to full compliance with its 2015 nuclear deal. But Iran's Atomic Energy Organization rejected France, Germany, and Britain's criticism over its plans to produce uranium metal. It said the issue of metallic uranium factory differs from the production of advanced fuel to be used. Last month, Iran's parliament passed a law that obliges the government to harden its nuclear stance. Israeli media says 2 American B-52 military bombers have been spotted flying over the country's airspace. The report suggests the planes were seen heading towards the Persian Gulf. An Israeli newspaper said this is the 5th time in recent months such American aircrafts were seen flying over the area. Last month, 2 B-52 bombers flew over the Israeli airspace as part of the United States display of force against Iran. Tensions remain high between Washington and Tehran after the assassination of Iranian scientist Mohsen Fakhrizadeh in November. In Uganda, opposition candidate Bobi Wine says he will legally contest President Yoweri Museveni's victory in the presidential election. In a tweet, he also urged his supporters to refrain from violence. This comes a day after the Electoral Commission declared Museveni winner with 59% of vote. According to the commission, Wine secured just 34.8%, but Wine has alleged widespread fraud and said his home in Kampala was surrounded by hundreds of soldiers. 54 people were shot dead by security forces loyal to Museveni during anti-government protests in November. Libya's rival Western and Eastern factions have agreed on a mechanism for choosing a new government. The development came during the UN-led Libyan Political Dialogue Forum in Geneva. Acting UN Libya envoy Stephanie Williams said the selection of a transitional government could be possible in several weeks. The United Nations said the transitional government will lead the war-torn country to elections in December. Stephanie Williams said the agreement represents the best possible compromise on the issue. However, the envoy also warned that there would still be people seeking to obstruct peacemaking efforts. Libya has been split between warring factions since 2014. The UN has welcomed a decision by Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas to hold presidential and legislative elections. In a statement, UN's chief spokesman said the holding of elections in the occupied West Bank will be a step towards Palestinian unity. Stefan Dujarric said the UN will support all efforts of Palestinians to exercise their full democratic rights. The UN also hoped the planned parliamentary elections will contribute to restart a process towards a two-state solution. The last Palestinian presidential election was held in 2005, while the parliamentary polls were conducted in 2006. 48 people have been killed in clashes between Arabs and non-Arabs in Sudan's West Darfur state. Medics say at least 97 others were wounded and fear the death toll may rise. The Sudanese authorities have imposed a round-the-clock curfew in the state. The violence erupted in the provincial capital of Janina when an Arab man was stabbed to death in a camp of internally displaced people. The suspect has been arrested. Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny has taken off a plane bound for Moscow for the first time since he was poisoned last summer. Navalny left for Moscow despite a stated desire by Russian authorities to arrest him and potentially jail him for years. Before boarding the plane, Navalny said he is innocent and does not fear arrest in Russia. Authorities have accused him of flouting the terms of a prison sentence for embezzlement, a 2014 case he says was trumped up. Navalny was flown to Berlin in August for medical treatment after being poisoned with a Novichok nerve agent. The 44-year-old believes the attack was ordered by President Vladimir Putin, but Kremlin has denied involvement. In the United States, all 50 states have been placed on a high alert for possible armed protests ahead of President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration. This comes amid FBI warnings of possible armed marches by President Donald Trump's supporters in all the state capitals.
Thousands of National Guards have been deployed in Washington, D.C. to secure the event on January 20th. In Washington, a man has been arrested carrying fake inaugural credentials, a loaded handgun, and over 500 rounds of ammunition. Among other states, Michigan, Virginia, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania also activated their National Guards to strengthen security. The state of Texas has closed its capital through Inauguration Day. Meanwhile, President-elect Joe Biden announced his Science and Technology team, elevating the Science and Technology Policy Director to cabinet-level status for first time in U.S. history.
I was telling these four brilliant scientists as I stood in the back, in a way, this is the most exciting announcement that I've gotten to make in the entire cabinet, raising this to a cabinet level position in one case. These are among the brightest, most dedicated people, not only in the country, but the world.
According to a memo seen by U.S. media, Biden will sign executive orders rejoining Paris Climate Accord and ending travel ban on Muslim countries on his first day.
India's COVID-19 vaccination drive has hit a bump on the first day due to glitches in its app called CoWIN. The country's COVID-19 caseload climbed to 1.5 million with over 15,000 infections and 181 deaths overnight. Brazil has reported over 1,000 COVID-19 deaths for the fifth day in a row as the country's death toll surges to over 2,900.
Brazil Air Force and Venezuela are flying in respirators and oxygen as scarcity aggravates COVID crisis in Brazil's Amazonas. Mexico has registered its worst week yet of the pandemic, with record high infections and more than 7,000 COVID-19 deaths. The Mexican government says the real number of infected people and deaths is likely significantly higher than 140,000 official count. Britain has given almost 3.6 million people a first dose of coronavirus vaccine so far. The government has turned the country's cathedrals into vaccine centers as part of the extensive inoculation drive. The Chinese mainland reported 109 new COVID-19 cases, out of which 96 were locally transmitted. Over in France, a curfew has taken effect to slow coronavirus spread. Globally, the virus has claimed over 2,021,000 lives, while infecting nearly 94.5 million people so far.
Now moving on to Pakistan, 43 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 over the past 24 hours. This takes the country's death toll to over 10,951. The Ministry of Health says 2,470 new infections were detected overnight. It said currently there are more than 34,000 active COVID-19 cases in the country. The ministry said out of over 519,000 countrywide cases, more than 473,000 people have recovered. Earlier, Pakistan approved the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine for emergency use. Pakistan Navy's ship PNS Nasser has embarked on a humanitarian assistance mission to African countries. The PNS Nasser is on an overseas deployment in coordination with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The ship is on its way to African countries to reach flood-stricken and drought-ridden areas in Djibouti, Sudan, and Niger. The PNS Nasser will also undertake a goodwill visit to Mombasa, Kenya. More news stories coming up after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now moving on to Tunisia, violent protests have erupted over economic woes in several cities, including the capital, Tunis. The demonstrations broke out as the country marks the 10th anniversary of the Arab Spring. Protests in Siliana and other cities began after a video posted on social media showed a police officer pushing a shepherd. Dozens of protesters built barricades and set fire to objects to block the streets of the city. In Sousse City, security forces fired tear gas to disperse hundreds of angry protesters. The economic situation of Tunisia has aggravated a decade after the revolution, which has brought the country on the verge of bankruptcy. Britain has invited G7 leaders to the group's first in-person meeting in nearly 2 years. The summit will take place in England's southwestern resort of Caribous Bay in Cornwall in June. In a statement, Prime Minister Boris Johnson said he aimed to forge a consensus to revive the global economy from COVID-19 crisis. He stressed the need to unite with the spirit of openness to create a better future. Johnson termed the coronavirus pandemic the most destructive force and the greatest test of the modern world. Last year's G7 meeting, due to be hosted by the U.S., was cancelled because of the pandemic. G7 leaders have not met in person since the 2019 meeting in France. Guatemala has blocked part of a caravan of around 9,000 Honduran migrants headed for the U.S. They were trying to reach the U.S. to escape poverty and unemployment amid hurricanes and the pandemic. The migrants entered Guatemala by pushing past about 2,000 police and soldiers posted at the border, with hundreds being detained by Guatemalan military. In a statement, Guatemalan President Alejandro called on Honduran authorities to contain the mass exodus. Earlier, Mexican and Central American governments made it clear they will not let the caravan through. The death toll from earthquake in Indonesia's Sulawesi Island has risen to 73. More than 820 people were injured after a 6.2 magnitude quake hit the island. The country's disaster mitigation agency said over 27,800 people have been displaced. It said police and military officers have been deployed to crack down on looting in several parts of the region. The agency added an emergency response status has also been put in place for 2 weeks. On Friday, a tremor leveled a hospital and damaged severely 100 buildings. A volcano in Indonesia's East Java province has erupted, spewing a cascade of ash. According to Geological Agency, the volcano poured clouds of smoke that went up as high as 5.6 kilometers. Mount Semeru is the highest volcano on the Java island. However, there have been no reports of casualties or evacuations. Semeru is also known as the Great Mountain, and it is one of the most active volcanoes in the country. Other volcanoes in Indonesia have also shown signs of activity recently. NASA specialists have carried out test firing of the Boeing-built Deep Space Exploration rocket. The Space Launch System carrier missile engines did not start as planned. Despite the setback, NASA said it does not consider the test firing a failure. NASA Director Jim Bridenstine added the agency specialists will determine the reason behind the unplanned behavior. 4 engines installed on a special stand inside the NASA testing facility worked simultaneously for just over a minute. NASA announced the Artemis moon program in 2019, but it speculates that the schedule could be reviewed. Twin sisters from Pakistan have received Microsoft certification for the Power Platform professionals at the age of 10. The twin sisters are the youngest to receive the certification in the world. The certification is for individuals who seek to create business solutions for their organizations or businesses using the Microsoft Power Platform. The 10-year-olds pursued the certification after 6 months of preparation during the COVID-19 pandemic. Earlier, my fellow anchor person Meher Shir spoke to the twin sisters about their achievement. Let's watch what the youngest Microsoft professional twins had to say. Congratulations, Zara Khan and Zenubia Khan. What an achievement.
Thank you.
Zara, how are you feeling after accomplishing such an incredible feat with your twin sister?
It feels very nice that I know that I have made my country and my parents proud. It gives a pleasant feeling and helps us in gaining more confidence. We feel very excited to take on more challenges.
And Zenubia, what inspired you to go for the Microsoft Power Platform certification? What inspired both of you?
Our father inspired us to do this, and he also helped us in understanding the platform, while our mother motivated us to go for the examination.
Now that you've both achieved this tremendous milestone, what are your future plans?
We haven't discussed future plans yet, but we would like to continue in computer sciences and continue in Power Platform certifications.
So we will be seeing a lot more of you two then.
I would like to do the same, but I would also like to positively contribute to the society.
So as twin sisters, you've both achieved this milestone together. It must have brought you both closer together. Do you do other activities together as well, and do you have other personal goals?
We read, we swim, we cycle, and when we're not doing any of those, we play.
Excellent.
There are times we don't agree on everything, but usually we have the same schedule.
And how does it feel to have accomplished this with your sister? This question is for both of you.
It feels very great, and it helps us gaining more confidence, and we can take on more challenges like that.
Being a father, Adil, what resources do you think are essential for any parent like you to provide to their children to develop specific interests and talents?
I think most important is we have to go back to the basics. That is, surround children with books, let them have the ability to read. The most important skill in next 5 to 10 years is the ability to self-learn, and you need to ensure that your kids are, having that ability, and you build them, you improvise on it, and create the, environment within the family to accomplish educational activities while they are young, so that they get into the habit of learning. And as long as the topic of resources are abundant today, you can get a lot of resources from education resources from internet, from various other resources. But you need to be careful that and really engage with your kids and to understand what is their interest and how they want to really get engaged into activities.
Adil, how do you and your wife feel knowing that your two daughters have not just made you proud and have made all of Pakistan proud, but they have achieved such a significant accomplishment? How does it feel to be a parent of such talented and wonderful young, smart girls?
We are really overwhelmed with the appreciation and love we have received from not only from back home, but also from around the world, and it adds a pressure that now they have set an expectation, and we need to make sure that they continue to meet that expectation or exceed that expectation. So as much as we get we feel really humbled and honored, but we also now feel the pressure of doing more and more.
So Zara and Zenobia both have told me that they want to continue along this path, following their interest and their passion for computer sciences. As parents, I know now the pressure is too high. Your girls have set the bar so high. What do you want your daughters to do in the future? Do you want them to follow this path and stick to computer science? What other goals do you have in mind for them?
Yeah, I mean, they're young. They are just 10 now. So we don't have any exact target. And to be honest, this is probably coming from the last decades learning that today the kind of, even in the corporate market, if you see the kind of jobs and roles they are not what we used to hear about or what we used to know about, when we were growing up. So that is why it is important that as a parent, what the most important thing that we feel is that we should give them the ability to learn and self-learn, so that whatever career they choose, whatever passion, wherever their passion drives them, they should be able to go forward. But yes, we want to make sure that they have a good technical sense, because I think that's the most important skills that we need to give to our children today.
Well said, Adil. Now, Zara and Zenobia, one last question from both of you. What would you like to say to other kids around the world, other Pakistani kids here and abroad? Any message you would want to share, or any inspiration you would like to give?
Keep learning and keep reading. Keep reading as much as possible books.
Thank you, Zara, Zenobia, and Adil for joining us here on Indus News.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Bye.
Now it's time to take a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. In the Chinese city of Shenyang, 4 pandas have been spotted playing with balls, rolling on snow and climbing snow-wrapped tree trunks. More in this report.
In China, an interesting and vivid scene has been presented as giant pandas were spotted playing in the snow-blanked zoo. The pandas were released into the snow field for enjoying the fresh air at the Shenyang Forest Wild Animal Zoo.
We prevent them from staying indoor for too long. When playing outside, they can breathe the fresh air, have contact with different smells, and enjoy a wider space for activities. So we let them get outside when there is enough sunlight in the afternoon. Especially after snowfalls, they would be so excited playing in the snow.
Since the pandas will consume more energy when playing games in the snow, the zoo workers have prepared nutritional bamboo poles and bamboo shoots for them. In addition, they have also installed underfloor heating facilities and air humidity control devices to create a warm environment for the pandas.
We have installed an underfloor heating system to keep the indoor temperature at around 15 degrees Celsius. To avoid the air becoming too dry due to the heating facilities, we would place some water and regularly spray water in the indoor sports field and their rooms to keep the air humidity at a comfortable level.
A zoo worker says outdoor activities are good for the health of pandas.
Now moving on to the business stories, the U.S.-China Business Council has called on the U.S. to reduce tariffs on China. The joint report with Oxford Economics said the move would benefit global economic development. The report said Washington has long benefited from its trade with Beijing. It noted that the U.S.-China economic trade war has resulted in an estimated peak loss of 245,000 jobs in the U.S. The report added the trade war escalation may result in a loss of $1.6 trillion to the U.S. economy, with a peak loss of 732,000 jobs over the next 5 years. Major stock markets in the Gulf are trading somewhat subdued as investors await quarterly and full-year corporate results over the next few weeks. The Dubai index is leading the losses, tipping close to 0.5% after Emirates NBG Bank and blue-chip developer Emaar Properties slipped. Saudi Arabia's benchmark index fell marginally, driven down by a decline in the banking and healthcare sector. In Abu Dhabi, the index eased marginally as Telco Etisalat and First Abu Dhabi Bank retreated. The Qatar index has also edged lower, weighed down by a fall for the Gulf's biggest lender, Qatar National Bank. In cricket, South Africa's test squad has started training ahead of the two-match test series against the host Pakistan. The Proteas will also play 3 2020 internationals. The members of South African team underwent COVID-19 testing upon their arrival in the seaport city of Karachi. All of the members have tested negative. Yesterday, the 21-member squad led by Quinton de Kock arrived in Pakistan for the first time in 14 years. The first test is scheduled to start from 26th of January at National Stadium in Karachi. To Brisbane now, where Australia have taken a lead of 54 runs over India at the close of Day 3 of the fourth test at the Gabba. The Kangaroos are in a strong position, the series decider, with all 10 wickets in hand. Harris 1 and Warner 20 will resume the innings for Australia tomorrow. Earlier, the hosts bowled out the visitors in their first innings for 336 runs, retaining a lead of 33 runs. Josh Hazlewood took a 5-wicket haul, while Cummins and Stark bagged 2 wickets each. The 4-match test series is currently levelled 1-1. Pakistan has congratulated a team of climbers on first ever winter ascent of K2. In a tweet, Ministry of Foreign Affairs wished them a safe return. The 8,611-meter high K2 was the only peak that had never been conquered during winters. According to the mountaineers, the maximum height achieved by teams in winters is the past was 7,650 meters. Over 60 mountaineers are attempting to summit the K2 peak this winter from December to February. A Spanish climber has already died while climbing the world's second tallest peak. On the peak of K2, winds can blow at more than 200 kilometers per hour, with temperatures dropping to -60 degrees Celsius. In tennis, Australian Open tournament director says the event will go ahead despite anger from players forced into quarantine in Melbourne. 47 players have to isolate for 2 weeks after 3 COVID-19 cases were reported on flights carrying them to Melbourne. Other players who have landed in Australia are also undertaking mandatory 14-day quarantine. The event's director, Craig Talley, said the tournament will start as scheduled. But he said Tennis Australia will look at altering the lead by tournaments to help the affected players. Talley also promised best facilities and exercise equipment to players.
We need to do what we can do as best as we can for those players in providing exercise equipment in their rooms, and we will do that over the course of today, and then keep monitoring the situation. Obviously, our first objective is that everyone remains as healthy as possible and is not the cause of further spread within the bubble.
Now moving on to basketball, the Brooklyn Nets have beaten the Orlando Magic 122-115 in New York. NBA All-Star James Harden posted a historic 32-point triple-double in his debut for the Brooklyn Nets. Harden, known as the Beard, finished the game with 32 points, 14 assists and 12 rebounds. He became the first player in history to achieve a 30-point triple-double in a debut game. In other contests, San Antonio Spurs defeated Houston Rockets 103-191, while Toronto Raptors downed Charlotte Hornets 116-113. Memphis Grizzlies also dominated Philadelphia 76ers-106-104. Now it's time to have a look at the weather update across the globe. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.tv.